Simon Harris live from London, and I'm right here at the W Hotel with music industry veteran and all-around expert on everything, Lindsay Wesker, DJ, record industry, teacher, guru.
You're telling me I'm a legend, and of course you are the legend.
I'm not going to disagree.
You are the...
I know. Let's go.
Okay, all right, okay,
yeah.
okay.
Because I did one of these the other day.
Yeah.
And I stood still, and it was a big mistake. I realised that if I stand still, you don't get all everything else in the background. It was
the colours.
It focused on me, and I felt like I looked like a dwarf or something. Let's start down here. Anyway, so how are you, Lindsay?
I am very, very well. Got to avoid the bikes, or we will die.
Yeah.
I am very, very well. Do you know what I did last night? I went and saw my dad's play.
I saw that. Yeah.
And
I want to ask you about your father.
Fantastic production at the Almeida Theatre in Islington.
Yeah.
I've never been to the Almeida. What a lovely theatre. Fantastic cast.
I would have thought that they would be very excited to have you there.
Well, I mean,
because of who you are.
Well, the cast were a bit with us last night. So me and my wife went, and we took with us my Uncle Keith, and my Uncle Keith is actually referenced in the play.
Oh, wow.
So all the cast.
Is this the first time he's seen the play with himself referenced in it?
Oh no. He's been around a while, so he's seen the play about 30 times all around the country.
And which play was this?
So this was Roots.
Roots.
So this is the true story of my mother coming back to Norfolk, having met my father
at the hotel.
At the Bell Hotel in Norwich.
And your mother was the chambermaid, Dusty. And your father was the...
Pastry chef.
Pastry chef.
And, you know,
I've done my research, haven't I?
You have, mate, you have. So this is a true story. So she comes home to her relatives and she's raving and raving and raving about this communist Jew boy that she's met.
Yeah.
And
because your father,
my father
was a member of the Communist Party.
Well, I mean, I think his mum was. I'm
sorry, your grandparents.
Yeah, my grandparents.
Yeah.
Who were written about in another play called Chicken Soup with Barley. Dad described himself as a socialist,
right,
more than a communist.
Right.
But so the story is mum coming home to Norfolk.
Yeah.
And, you know, just going on and on and on and on about this boy she's fallen in love with. And
is that where her family was from? Norfolk?
Yeah. So she's gone home to her family in Norfolk.
Yeah.
And they kind of slap her down a bit and go, you know, hold on a second. You know, what about us?
Yeah.
What about your culture? What about your roots?
Right.
You know, don't forget about your family and where you've come from.
Yeah.
And so it's a fantastic play, fantastic production.
Well, they all were. Your father's plays were all fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've seen so many of them down the years. But last night was great because we had my Uncle Keith there with me, and you know, the cast were quite excited to see and hear, you know, a real Norfolk person. Yeah. Because it's quite a distinctive accent.
Yeah.
But very enjoyable evening. Yeah. So that's where I was last night.
Wow.
And otherwise, how am I? I'm incredibly busy. I'm teaching at 2 different places.
Are you still teaching at Point Blank Music School?
Yeah, I'm teaching at Point Blank, which is fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic university, kind of straddling Haggerston and Hoxton. Yeah. And, sorry. And
all this chaos is good, by the way. Yeah.
and also the London College of Contemporary Music, LCCM.
2 schools now. I didn't realise that.
Okay. So I'm at LCCM as well.
Right.
Again.
What do you specifically teach?
Well, I'm kind of teaching music industry and music industry related things.
Like publishing and the importance of things like that?
I mean, one of the modules I do is simply called music industry, and it's like we cover record companies, we cover publishing companies, we cover the live industry, artist management, you know, digital distribution.
Which has changed considerably since you entered the industry.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, when I worked at A&M Records in the mid-80s, you know, my office backed onto the warehouse, and I used to see the lorries reverse into the warehouse and fill the lorries full of boxes of vinyl, you know. So that is what distribution used to be. And now distribution is obviously, you know, quick transfer of an MP3.
live?
Yes. No, we're not.
You're not?
No, not live, no.
Is it not live? Could we pretend it to be live for our school thing that we've got? It's a challenge, it's a scavenger hunt.
Yeah, as long as I don't have to touch any cameras or anything.
You don't.
Okay.
Okay, just pretend. Can we just like wave?
All right.
Just like wave at your...
Okay, please do, yeah.
Wave at your camera.
Okay, thank you.
Live world. Isn't this live?
It's going to be live, but it's not at the moment. Simon Harris live from London.
Can we pretend to the camera that it's live?
This is live. This is live television.
We're now live.
God's sake.
Everybody's live. Everybody's live.
Unbelievable. You come to London, you get all this.
Thank you so much.
Have a lovely day, girls.
Thank you.
You know, the more crazy things, the better. This is why it's great walking around London. So you're talking about the boxes of vinyl coming in and out, the promos coming in and out of A&M Records when you were there. But you weren't at A&M to start off with. Were you not at Warner Brothers?
I was. I did a year at Warner's.
Just a year?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I was a year at Warner's. I was 2 years at A&M, and
So this probably would have been Warner's would have been about 84.
no, well, this was 83. In fact, we can date it accurately because just as I was leaving WEA, Shaka Khan, I Feel For You was coming out.
Oh wow! Okay.
So we can actually put a date on it.
Okay.
So great experience, and then kind of going into, you know, the whole radio thing. Really, I mean, it was kind of, you know.
Were you DJing at the same time as working at A&M and Warner's, or did the DJing start later?
No, the DJing actually began when I was working at Black Echoes.
I didn't know you worked at Echoes.
Yeah, I was at Black Echoes between 81 and 82,
Wow,
83.
Yeah.
Kind of straddled those years.
Black Echoes being really one of the leading reggae black music newspapers. It was almost a black version of NME, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
And they were based just off Oxford Street?
Well, when I started working there, we were in High Holborn.
Right.
Literally opposite the tube station.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, fantastic times. And that's where I met the DJs of the UK. You know, I met all of the Mafia crew. Sorry, I met all the Mafia crew and the Chris Hills and Robbie Vincent and the Pete Tong and Jeff Young and all of those guys.
Yeah.
And then I kind of met the ignored people. And the ignored people were just people, you know, Gordon Mack and Steve Walsh and Tim Westwood and Trevor Nelson and Paul Anderson and Norman Jay.
Right.
The people who weren't really being written about.
Yeah.
So and I made friends with your friends, Max LX and Dave VJ.
Yeah.
And they got me a slot on Invicta Radio, which was
is that where it started?
Pirate station. So that would have been 82.
So it's Max and Dave, the Hard Rock Soul Movement, formerly Mastermind Roadshow, that introduced you to radio via Invicta.
Absolutely.
And Pete Tong was in Kent as well, wasn't he?
No. Well, this wasn't Invicta, the ILR station in Kent. This was Invicta, the pirate radio station.
I didn't know that there was one.
Yeah.
Right.
So this was Invicta, the pirate radio station, and that's where I did my first radio show. I lasted about 40 minutes, bang on the door, DTI, out the back window with my records.
DTI, love them!
Love them! The Department of Trade and Industry.
Yeah.
I've been in love with radio since, you know, Kenny Everett and Alan Freeman and, you know, DJs like that. And
so you come from being a radio fan as opposed to being a fan of clubs and mobile DJing and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I was an absolute radio junkie. You know, it's like Radio Luxembourg under the covers. You know, Mum and Dad had told you to go to bed, and you were like, oh no, I haven't finished listening to the radio. So I'd listen to Radio Luxembourg and Kid Jensen and you know, Bob Stewart and Tony Prince underneath the covers, coming from this mystical place called Luxembourg. Yeah. It's like, where the hell?
Well, me too, yeah.
Where the hell was it?
Yeah, but then I was into Capital in a big way. Everything, you know, I was a hardcore follower of anything Capital 194, Kenny Everett, all the daytime shows, Peter Young, all of that.
Well, there were some Capital shows that I loved. I mean, I loved Nicky Horn, Your Mother Wouldn't Like It, which was just amazing. Yeah. Because I love progressive rock as well. Yes. So, you know.
Oh, do you?
Absolutely.
Oh,
absolutely.
I didn't know that.
My favourite band on the planet are Led Zeppelin.
Oh, I thought you were totally a soul boy.
No.
Okay, I didn't know.
No.
Yeah.
General junkie about everything.
Yeah.
So.
But you just love music. I mean, when you were at Warner's and A&M.
Yeah.
Was it all kinds of music you're doing, or was it just dance music? What was it?
Well, WEA had kind of hired me from Black Echoes. You know, the girls in the press office at WEA, you know, said, Jesus, you know, you should come and work for us.
Yeah, and this is
I
when
was in and out.
Fred Dove and Zoe were promoting the records at that point?
Yeah, Fred Dove was in Alperton. He was in the warehouse in Alperton.
Yeah.
I was in the main office in Broadwick Street.
Okay.
And, you know, Fred was up to his eyeballs in boxes of amazing promos. So it was probably best if he stayed out in Alperton.
As a DJ, he was like the gold standard of a list that you wanted to be on. And if you got onto that list, you knew you'd made it.
I mean, that is exactly my point. It's like you knew you were someone if you were on Fred Dove's list.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
No question.
And I never got on it, so when you said I was a legend, you were wrong.
Oh, sorry. Well, I didn't make it onto Fred Dove's list.
I got a few promos off of him, though.
Yeah, I managed to get a few promos once I worked there, but I wasn't good enough to be on Fred Dove's list.
And love to Fred Dove if he ever sees this.
So
which I hope he does.
So yeah, I mean that is the reason I'm able to teach now, because of, you know,
such a range of different things.
Doing media, kind of going from black music journalism into A&R, doing radio at the same time. So that's the reason I'm kind of able to talk about pretty much everything. Yeah. Because I was doing artist management at the same time.
Oh my God, you're kidding.
It
really is everything.
I was managing this fantastic lovers rock group from Northwest London called Prediction.
And have you always been in Northwest London? You always been in
No.
around that area?
No. I mean, I was born on Green Lanes in Hackney. And and then my family's first big house was in Highgate. Yeah. And then we moved to Crouch End.
Oh, okay, lovely. Very nice.
But I fell in love with a girl who lived in Harlesden, NW10. Yeah. So I began managing a lovers rock band, and when that band kind of broke up, they formed themselves into my wife and her twin sister. Formed themselves into a duo.
Oh, so you're married to the girl from the Lovers Rock band?
Yeah, okay, yeah. So she was one of the singers. And
Lovers Rock, for if you don't know, is like a kind of commercial version of reggae, which is kind of laid back, isn't it?
Yeah, very, very kind of sweet and lyrical and romantic, and you know. And so Claudette and her sister Paulette formed themselves into a group called Dazzle. And I got them a deal with our friend Andy Soika.
Oh, fantastic. At Elite Records.
At Elite Records. Yeah. He turned it into a label called Jam Today.
And wow. That was Jam Today.
Yeah.
I know, of course, yeah.
So Elite became Jam Today. Elite was obviously the label behind Level 42. You know, they released.
Should we head up that way?
Yeah.
I'm trying to stay away from roadworks.
Stay away from roadworks.
Yeah, because the noise,
it's going to be difficult.
It completely picks up everything, you know.
It's going to be difficult. There's roadworks everywhere.
I know. Side roads are probably a bit better. But yeah, so Jam Today.
So Jam Today, and they had cool acts on there. They had Kenny Stevens and Projection, and you know, it's just a really good. I mean, back in the day, that genre of music was called street soul. Yeah. And that's what Dazzle did. You know, it was kind of almost like soul music meets lovers rock.
And the first release, I understand, on Elite Records was Atmosfear, Dancing in Outer Space.
Yes.
I think they were connected with a record shop, weren't they?
Yeah, they were connected to a record shop in Harlesden called All Ears.
Pete Tong mentioned this on a show that he did about it recently.
Okay.
And he was talking about Elite and this record shop.
Yeah. Well, All Ears was where Andy and the Atmosfear guys,
Lester
Batchelor. Yeah. Who I'm still in contact with on Facebook. Yeah. Jerry Pike passed away. Oh. Andy passed away. Jerry Pike passed away. But yeah, I think in the back room of All Ears is where they rehearsed.
Wow, fantastic.
And this, I mean, in hindsight, when you listen to Dancing in Outer Space now, it was so ahead of its time.
Incredible record.
So ahead of its time. What an amazing piece of music.
Yeah.
So I did artist management as well. Yeah. Then I did the radio thing and the whole KISS project. And
so
I joined KISS when it was a pirate.
Okay, but how did you meet the KISS guy? I mean, you just knew Gordon Mack from Echoes and heard he was starting a the station? Because it was Tosca and
George Power.
And George Power.
Yeah, and the original shareholders, Norman and Joey J, and Trevor Nelson, and Matt Black and Jonathan Moore, and the original crew.
Yeah.
And I mean, I knew Gordon from my Black Echoes days. I mean, I was massively impressed with what he was doing. I mean, he was just running great club nights, and I used to just go to Gordon's club nights and take photos of him, and I
remember him because he had I knew him first of all because he had the show that led into the original Rare Groove show on a Saturday, didn't he?
Oh, well, I mean, I then met Gordon again at JFM. So I did a bit of Invicta, a bit of LWR, and then I joined JFM.
You've really been around, haven't you?
And Steve Jackson and Gordon were both on JFM, and we were kind of broadcasting from a crazy little hut in Shooters Hill.
Yeah.
And so I mean, Gordon and I kind of stayed in touch, and then he kind of began to think about the possibility of KISS becoming a legal radio station.
I remember, yeah.
So we kind of talked, and he kind of said, "Look, I'm gonna create an office, and I'd like you to become part of the office and kind of help us launch the campaign to get a legal license."
Yeah.
And it's like, where do you begin? It's like, literally, where do you begin? How do you get a legal license?
So it was the deregulation of radio at that time that was happening that gave it the opportunity, I remember.
Well, I mean, Gordon needed to ask a whole pile of questions of the
and the problem was, the worry
IBA.
was, coming from a pirate station, whether that would have been a detrimental thing. But it didn't turn out to be, did it?
Well, I mean,
should we turn right here?
Well, Gordon needed to ask a whole pile of questions, and he said to me, "Look, Lindsay, you've got a posh voice. Will you call up the IBA and ask all these questions?"
Yeah.
So I called up the IBA, and I spoke to a woman called Sheila Porritt, and I said to this woman, hypothetically.
I'm just realising, Now you've come to mention it.
Yeah, that's what they call me on my soul. They call me Lord Lindsay. So I said to Sheila,
that's not far from the truth, though. With your father being a sir. Yeah.
So I said, hypothetically, how does one get a legal license? And how does an unlicensed station get a legal license?
Yeah.
And she said, well, the very, very first thing you need to do is prove to us that there is a demand for the kind of station you are.
Oh my God. What a huge demand, yeah.
So I was like, how on earth do we do that? How do we prove to you that there's a need in London for a station like KISS?
Yeah.
And she said, well, you're just going to have to gather up public opinion. So the year of 1989, really one of the strangest, but one of the most exciting years of my life. We raised money. I mean, we found backers, we found people who were interested in us. I mean, there was one amazing occasion where there was a big radio debate in the House of Commons. So me and Gordon and two amazing girls who were working in the office, Hedy and Rosie.
Yeah.
All four of us, we went to the House of Commons to hear this debate on deregulation.
Yeah.
And Gordon was like digging me in my ribs. He's like, say something, Lindsay, say something. Get up and say something.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there in the House of Commons, this beautiful, austere building.
Yeah, which is a bit to the left of us right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I put my hand up and they kind of called me to stand up. And I said, hello, my name's Lindsay Wesker, I'm from KISS FM. And the whole place just went completely silent.
Really?
Because I mean,
in a good way or a bad way?
Well, it was like, oh my God, we're in the midst of a criminal.
Oh, because of the DTI been chasing KISS and you've been in the press.
We were
and all
pirate.
This kind of stuff.
We were a pirate radio station and a legal radio station. So all eyes turned to me, and it's like, oh my God!
Yeah,
it's a real live street urchin in our midst.
Yeah.
So again, I sort of spoke in my poshest voice, and I asked some questions about deregulation.
Yeah.
And they were like, I mean, you could have heard a pin drop. It was just an amazing moment.
Wow.
And then there was another kind of big radio industry event at the Virgin Megastore on Oxford Street a couple of weeks later.
Yeah.
And this guy came up to me and he said, you're that guy from KISS, aren't you? And this was a man called Tim Schoonmaker,
Right.
and he worked at EMAP, East Midlands Associated Press.
Oh, this was meant to be, wasn't it?
Well,
The guy with the money, really.
so then, I introduced him to Gordon, and Gordon and he had a meeting,
Yeah.
and, they became the first people to come on board with money.
The moment that Gordon became an executive.
There you go. Oh my goodness, where are we going?
I'm just thinking about cutting through this
This
to German Street, maybe.
This is
It was just getting a bit noisy out there.
Yeah,
You've not been in here before. This and the Burlington Arcade are amazing.
I haven't been down here in decades.
Actually, I haven't been here for a while either. I'm terrible at walking with people. I'm used to walking on my own. I think if I got somebody with me, I'm getting in the way.
Tourists.
Yeah, it is. I'm like a tourist. Exactly. So anyway, successful with EMAP, obviously. They financed KISS. They came in and KISS launched.
Yeah, I mean, 1990 we launched.
I remember.
Gordon asked me to be head of music. So 4 years as a pirate, 4 years legal, and then I left KISS FM in 94.
Yeah.
And I actually went back to independent record labels. I actually went back to...
Really?
Went back to ZTT.
Wow.
I went back to Mushroom Records.
You went to MTV at one point.
MTV was 1999.
Right.
So that's much later. So after I did the 3 record companies, so I did an Australian. So the first label was Avex, a Japanese record label.
I know, Tom Yoda.
Yeah, Tom Yoda. Then I did Mushroom Records with Coda Marshall down in Fulham.
Right.
And then moved on to ZTT in Ladbroke Grove.
Fantastic.
And when I finished there...
That must have been exciting.
Well, I mean, what an education. My goodness, what an amazing education.
Yeah.
And then...
Do you think your students at Point Blank realise the sheer amount that you've done? Literally, from one to another to another. Literally...
Well,
the experience is unbelievable.
On day one, I give them a kind of biography, a kind of short biography of what I've done.
Yeah.
And so they've got the facts in front of them. They can see the dates and names and places.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if they...
Kids now...
Don't know if they fully understand
but kids now
we went through.
Who want to get into the music industry.
Yeah.
In your experience, what do they actually? What part of the music industry do they want to be in? It's not really likely they're going to say, "Oh, I want to be in publishing," are they? I mean, they want to be in something that's glamorous and exciting. And the public see the music industry as red carpet events and bling and hip hop and everything else, but the reality is very different. It's an industry.
Well, I mean, on day one of the module, I will say to them, what do you want to be?
Yeah.
And I would say 90% of them, this is no word of a lie, 90% of them will say producer, DJ. Producer, DJ. Producer, DJ.
Oh my God.
Producer, DJ.
Yeah.
And, I say to them, cool, not a problem.
Yeah.
You can be that. You can definitely be that.
Yeah.
Massively competitive out there, but if you want to do it, it's going to involve a lot of hard work. But yeah, it's possible. You can do it.
Yeah. That's what I wanted to be. And here I am.
There you go. Well, you became...
Walking around with a video stick.
You became...
Walking around with a bloody selfie stick.
You became a producer and a DJ, but when you were coming up, it was much less competition.
The funny thing is that there was, at one point, a couple of points, it sounds crazy to say it now, but there was no competition.
Yeah.
I remember when Froggy and I were doing mixes and walking around. The plan was to try to do a mix.
Yeah.
To give it to Bruno Brooks, for example.
Yeah.
Get him playing it.
Yeah.
And then go and see Lindsay Wesker at A&M Records and bully him into releasing our mix on the B-side because Bruno Brooks was playing it. That was the whole plan. Wow. You were part of our plan.
Well, it was so different, Simon, as you know. It was so different. Now...
I remember when there was the first competition that we had.
Yeah.
There was this guy called Chad Jackson popped up.
Chad is a teacher at Point Blank.
I said, there's someone else doing it. I thought it was over for us because there was going to be somebody else doing it as well.
Yeah.
He's a teacher as well.
He's now a teacher at Point Blank. He's amazing. It's always good to see Chad.
Yeah, he's good as a teacher. I know he is. Yeah. But
so
no, there was no competition then.
Now,
And no competition when I started Music of Life either. No other hip-hop labels. So just because you're the first doesn't mean you're going to be the most successful. Let's avoid this building.
I say to the students, you can do it. Your number one issue, really, the number one thing stopping you is the amount of other people in the game.
Yeah, it's a problem, isn't it? And that's also with releasing records now, the sheer amount of releases every week. And
every day.
AI is going to make it worse. Very hard. You got to really try and find a niche. And I don't know how you can make it now.
Well, the Spotify statistic that they quote is that there are 120,000 uploads every day.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
I don't want to sound negative about that, but it's true. You have to find a way to make it that's different. And I feel that the future, I have to say, is all kinds of media, not just music. And that's why I'm into video, you're getting into video as well, and TikTok's becoming a huge thing.
Well, this is what I say to the students, you know, if you're self-releasing music, go for it, you can do it, you can make it happen, but you've got to remember you are the artist and you're also the record company.
Yeah.
So you have to do all the things that record companies do.
Yes.
And I put up on the screen,
that's true,
all of the different departments in a bog standard record company, and I say, if you want to self-release, go for it, but all of these jobs are yours.
Yeah.
And they're like, ooh.
Yeah. What made you want to start the TikTok thing? So you were at Point Blank, and then you decided, I want to do it myself on social media as well?
Well, TikTok was becoming a big thing. TikTok was becoming a really big thing, and you know, all my students were like, "Oh, sir, you've got to go on TikTok."
Oh, really? Okay, so it was the kids that told you. Okay.
And they said, "Oh, yeah, you've got to join TikTok." And I was like, "Who the hell is going to want to look at me?" You know, it's like, you know, if I was young and cool and sexy, all one, well, that would be okay. But you know, so I'm an old geezer. And they said, "Oh, sir, just do what you do. You know, just talk."
They're right.
Just tell your stories and tell them what you tell us.
Yes.
So that's what I do.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
And you've got a good little niche with this keep on scrolling thing. I like the style of it. That you're finding your own style on there.
Well, you know, at the front of my TikTok videos, as you know, I sort of say, look, if you're looking for pretty young girls, you know, keep scrolling. You know, it's no point looking at me. If that's what you're looking for, girls in lingerie, you know, keep scrolling.
Yeah.
All I can do is talk about the music industry.
Yeah. But you kind of make it bite-sized chunks, which I think is really good. You know, you do a short one about a particular subject.
Yeah,
and I think you've got to, because kids have got short attention span now, haven't they?
Well, I mean, again, the data coming through is that the TikTok generation don't even want to listen to the whole song.
Yeah.
I mean, the songs are shorter and shorter.
Or watch the whole video.
They don't even want to do 2.5 minutes. You know, it's like, I just want the chorus.
Yes.
Scroll.
Yeah.
Chorus, scroll.
Yeah.
And the TikTok generation just want the chorus. You know, just give me the chorus.
Yeah.
And I said this to my class the other day. I said, people should probably create a version of their album that's about 8 minutes long, and it's just the choruses.
That's a good idea.
And I think that might come to, you know, I think some people are going to do that because the TikTok generation, that's how long their attention span is.
And it's not going to change. I mean, it's not going to suddenly go back to the way it was. I think that's the misconception a lot of people in the industry have, is that things are a fad like that. They're not. But it's the direction, it's the way things are moving, isn't it?
It's never going to go back to 6 minutes of Bohemian Rhapsody, you know. It's not going back there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I say to my students, everything, you can do it, no problem. You've just got to remember you are the record company.
Yeah.
You're the artist and you're the record company.
Yeah.
So, you know, just here are all the jobs that need doing.
Did you ever want to be a teacher when you were back with the record companies? Did you think, I want to, at some point, stand in front of a classroom or not?
I mean, throughout my career, people have asked me to come and lecture.
Right.
And
have they?
So I've done these kind of things. I've done these kind of things many, many times before. One day, somebody asked me to come and lecture, and I thought I was going to be part of a panel of about 5 people.
Yeah.
And I was brought into this auditorium, given a microphone. There were about 500 people in the audience, and I was told to, start talking.
That's amazing.
So all I could do really was just kind of tell my story. The times I've been laid off or made redundant, and try to explain to them why it happened and the mistakes I made, and just give them a bit of life experience about.
And how much is this about music for you, and how much is it about business? I mean, is it a love of music that you keep doing it, or is it just because it's the thing you do and it's the industry and it's what you know?
Well, I mean,
And I say I'm not a big music guy. In the fact, if somebody said to me, "What's your influences?" I would say technology, and the music kind of came with that.
Well, I mean, as I say to my students, you're going to have to create a week for yourself, a month for yourself, which includes 5, 6, 7, 8 different streams of revenue.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get rich off streaming.
Yeah.
The only people that get rich off streaming are the people at the very, very top of the game. Drake and Taylor Swift and Ed Sheeran, they're able to literally make a living out of streaming.
Yeah.
Until you're pulling down 1 million streams a month, you're really not going to even be able to live in London.
My opinion on this is that the way you make money in the music industry is as a writer now, because that's where you get paid from the PRS and
absolutely right.
Publishing. That's where the money still is.
When you're sitting in the studio writing the song, you're not gonna make the money there and then. It's not like being a DJ, you get paid at the end of the night.
So they should be writing songs and joining the PRS and publishing them.
Well, they
make money in the music industry.
They are composing, but they haven't registered with PRS.
And they should do, because it costs £100. They should do it once, and they're there for life. It's not an every year thing.
Well, they're like, how much does it cost, sir, and is it necessary?
Yes.
It's like, listen, mate, if you want to get paid...
That's the difference between being a professional is joining the PRS. That's what I think.
It's this bog standard thing to do. It's the start...
and then getting writers' credits on as many things as you can.
Well, the songwriting sessions are really, really important. And I say to them, look, you go into a room with someone to write a song.
Yeah.
You need to agree on the song split even before you start writing.
You're absolutely right. Totally.
Work it out, because it's like at the end of the writing session.
Because it's the only way to account to people now.
Well, I mean, if there's no song share agreement and 2 signatures, you own nothing. So, I mean, the music is still massively important to me. I mean, obviously, the radio show on My Soul is one of the highlights of my week, if not the highlight of my week, really, just doing my radio show.
Do you do that? Do you actually go to the studio?
Yeah. I love doing live radio. Yeah. And the interaction with the listeners is absolutely brilliant. And, we're providing a service that no other radio station is.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
It's like all through my show, oh my God, I haven't heard this in ages, and wow, I didn't know that about this artist. And it's absolutely brilliant. Love it.
And you got Greg Edwards there.
Well, I mean, who haven't we got on My Soul? It's like, absolute who's who, and Judge Jules, and I mean,
do you all see each other now
Greg
and again as well? Or do you just go in and do your shows and not see much of each other?
Well, sometimes we don't see each other for months on end. We might see each other at like an event, a My Soul event. We might see each other.
Yeah.
But it's so cool, Jumping Jack Frost, and just brilliant people. Jazzy B. It's just ridiculous. I mean, it's just an absolute who's who.
So tell me, how did your father? I should say that your father, Sir Arnold Wesker, one of the angry young men of the 1950s, although he didn't like the term.
Well, that's how he was described.
Incredible reputation. In fact, when he passed away, Jeremy Corbyn stood up in the House of Commons.
Yeah.
And kind of mourned his loss.
He did. I don't think many of the people in the House of Commons knew who the hell he was, but Jeremy's a very well-read man.
Yeah.
I mean, he was called an angry young man because back in the day, theatre was the preserve of the middle, the middle and the upper classes.
Right.
It's like, it wasn't something that working class people did. I mean, according to the establishment, working class people just came home
And he was a very prolific writer.
Went to the pub and went home.
He was a very prolific writer. He just used to write and write almost continuously, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he had a lot to say, you know. I mean, he had a lot to say, and I think that's why he wrote so much. There was a lot that concerned him and a lot that troubled him. And,
yeah.
And, you know, he was...
Nuclear disarmament was a big thing for him, wasn't it?
The CND. Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament, and he went on marches.
Yeah.
In fact, he got arrested on one of the marches.
Yeah.
And he spent time in prison, you know, with all of the other people on the march.
Political prisoner.
Yeah, so he had a really, really strong sense of wrong and right, and, you know, there's certain things about society. Yeah, certain things about society.
And he must have been very proud of the fact that what you were doing was in the arts as well.
Well,
in fact, even if it's music and not theatre, it's still the arts, isn't it?
Well, I don't think he really. You know, if you see Roots, you'll see a section in that play where.
Yeah.
You know, the central character kind of is quoting Ronnie, and Ronnie is describing popular music as squit. You know, he was describing popular music as disposable. And I think when I moved into the music industry, it's like, well, okay, fine, Lindsay, but, you know, hopefully at some stage you'll be able to appreciate real music.
Right.
Which was classical music.
Right.
So
I didn't realise your father was a classical music fan.
Well, I mean...
Okay.
That for him was, you know, proper music. And he always said to me, Lindsay, you'll never be able to make music unless you can write and read music.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have the heart to tell him that most of my idols were self-taught.
Yeah.
Probably most of his idols were self-taught as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, we used to have a piano in our dining room in Highgate, in the Highgate house.
Could you play any instruments?
Well, I mean, I used to sit at the piano and I used to write songs on the piano.
That's great.
So I used to write songs, and Mum and Dad really liked them, and so I would have to perform them for their friends. So I was the after-dinner entertainment.
Yeah.
And Dad was like, you know, love this, love this, love this. But he didn't really think it was a future. He didn't really take it seriously. He didn't really think it was going to be a career.
Yeah.
And then about 20 years later, he called me from his phone in the car.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh my God, Lindsay, I've just heard a song on the radio. It sounds just like something you wrote 20 years ago. It's like, yeah, thanks. That's great. Thanks, Dad.
Fantastic. But your father, I didn't realise this until recently, he effectively founded the Roundhouse in Chalk Farm Road.
He bought...
Camden.
What's the story? He bought the Roundhouse from Bernard Delfont. I think it was Lord Bernard Delfont.
Yeah, I know.
He
Bernard
bought it
Delfont.
from him.
Right.
And his plan was to...
Bernard Delfont used to put on the Royal Variety shows with Lou Grade.
Yeah.
And Delfont Theatres.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dad bought the Roundhouse off him, and his idea was to turn it into a cultural space.
Let's go down here. Let's suddenly change direction.
His idea was to turn it into a cultural space where everybody could come and do the arts.
Yeah.
They could come and paint.
Yes.
They could be in plays.
Great idea.
They could learn musical instruments. They could learn how to dance.
Yeah.
And again, it was aligned to his belief that, you know, the arts were for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. And Camden at that point,
It was pretty groovy.
Was it?
Yeah, it was pretty groovy. I mean, you could definitely go there and get yourself a caftan and some joss sticks. You know, it was pretty groovy. I mean, the first gig I ever saw was at the Roundhouse. I was about 10. I saw the Rolling Stones at the Roundhouse.
unbelievable.
So it was a fantastic space, and has now gone on to be, you know, one of London's leading venues. Wow. We've covered a lot.
I think we have covered a lot, haven't we? Yeah.
We're right back at Wardour Street.